Welcome, everybody, to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Manny Maradiaga, today, live on June the 6th, to bring you guys another episode of the show. We have a good amount of stories to get to today around contract talks and certain players. So, to start off, we're going to be talking about the Colts center, Ryan Kelly, one of the representatives of the NFLPA for the Colts, coming out and really disputing the 18-game regular season, was very adamant in his points as to why this is not a good idea, so I'll get into that in just a few minutes. And also, the Packers came out and said that they would like to get an extension done for Jordan Love, ideally before training camp, to try and beat out some of the other quarterbacks trying to get an extension. We'll get into what their general manager said and what the whole situation is looking like there in Green Bay. Plus, Micah Parsons returned to the Cowboys practices officially this week. We'll get into why he gave some of the reasons that he did for missing the voluntary portion of the offseason and what this could mean for the Cowboys going forward based on his contract and all that sort of stuff going on over there in Dallas. That and much more on today's show, so make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast. And also, as a reminder, before I start, as always, if you have any questions or want to make any comment, use the tip and donations link, GSMCPodcast.net. By using this tip and donations link, I'll be able to see your question, read it on air, and that way get your guys' thoughts or perspective on anything I say or on any of the topics we discuss on today's show. It's a massive help for this show and the network, so please, if you would, use the tip and donations link, GSMCPodcast.net. But in saying that, we can get back to the first topic on today's agenda. The 18-game regular season gaining more and more traction as the offseason goes on. You had that proposal from the NFLPA to sort of switch up the offseason, which gained more traction for this 18-game regular season idea. And for the most part, I think people have been 50-50 on it. You've seen Derek Carr talk about the change to the offseason and then eventually the 18-game regular season. Brock Purdy mentioned it as well. He seemed, pretty even split on it as well. Nick Bosa was very much against it. And now Ryan Kelly came out in one of their mini-camp practices this week and was very adamantly against this 18-game regular season. And if you don't know too much about Ryan Kelly, what he has to do with the NFLPA and this whole situation, he is the Pro Bowl center for the Indianapolis Colts and also the NFLPA representative for the Indianapolis Colts as well. So he spoke to the media on Wednesday about the potential about expanding this regular season. And one of the first points he made was just the basic, grit and tiredness and just wear and tear that comes from a football season, already upping it to 17 games and now wanting to expand it again to 18 games. That was really the first point he made in his stance on it so far. You could see it there on the screen. And he basically said, if people understood how hard it was to play 16, then they added another one, right? They get rid of preseason games. Well, okay. And who's that gonna hurt? The guys who don't have a shot, the undrafted guys or late round guys that need to go out there and improve themselves. And also went on to say further in his statement that the fans don't really know what goes on in an offseason for a football team. Really, they have the outside perspective and don't really get to see what some of these guys go through. See, these undrafted guys, these late round guys that don't really have too much of a shot to make it. Because of their stock, because of the low value at the beginning of it, they have a long shot at making these rosters, so they need even more time to sort of get acclimated to this whole situation of now being in the NFL and playing football professionally. And that was my biggest problem with the whole idea of expanding the 18-game season, getting rid of another preseason game. And if you change the offseason as well, you get rid of the OTA periods to sort of negotiate some more time off there to increase the schedule. You get more time off so then we can play another game. That's sort of the idea with this whole situation going on with the offseason changes leading into the 18-game regular season. But again, I don't think too many people really understand how important rookie minicamps are, OTAs, and these voluntary practices that are voluntary to most of the veteran guys because they really don't have much to lose. If you're a quarterback, if you're a 8-year veteran, an 8-year wide receiver, or just, someone of a leadership standpoint in a team, these situations, these opportunities don't really affect you as much because you already have a solidified spot on the team. And for these undrafted guys and even first rounders that get drafted second, third round, of course, even in the first round, yeah, they might be a little bit more safe than these late round guys, undrafted guys, but at the same time, they're also trying to get the hang of this NFL situation now that does become their life and takes over their entire life. So having that extra time there to really get acclimated really plays into how much they can contribute right away. A lot of teams benefit from the young guys coming in right away, a rookie quarterback having all of this extra time to come in, learn the system, and just practice it over and over again and make mistakes in practice is much more beneficial than going out there in the game, not being prepared, and making a lot of mistakes and growing that way in the games that matter a lot more than in the spring, of course. And that's really my biggest issue. That was what Ryan Kelly sort of led off with as well in his statement. But he went on to also say more on, how this whole situation came up, mentioning Roger Goodell there a little bit here in another statement he made. He basically said, yeah, 18 games sound great when Roger is saying it on the Pat McAfee podcast, but until you're the one going out there and putting a helmet on for 18 of those games, yeah, then come talk to me. And he makes a good point, obviously. A lot of people talk on these situations without maybe going out there and playing football, knowing what it's really like to go through the grind and wear and tear of an entire season. 16 games is already a lot on the body. Then they upped it to 17, and then obviously now trying to get it up to 18. Not a lot of people on the planet can really know what that is like going through that sort of season. And if you're lucky enough to play all 17, 18 games, that's going to get more and more, it's going to become more rare to see those players doing it because it's just a big toll on your body. And to give some more context, if you don't really know what Ryan Kelly is alluding to by mentioning Roger Goodell, the commissioner, he was on the Pat McAfee show around the draft time, and he basically answered a question on the idea of expanding the season, basically saying that his whole mindset around it is that he doesn't feel that there's too much of a need for the preseason. He would rather switch out one of the preseason games, almost devaluing it a little bit just because you're obviously not getting everyone's best shot. You're seeing a lot of guys go out there and trying to learn what it's like to be playing at this level. So from a fan standpoint, from an external standpoint, you would see why most people don't want to watch the preseason. They want to see the live action, more live football, and see all that excitement. But again, I don't think too many people consider how vital this period is for all these undrafted guys and these young players to get their mistakes out of the way, get them out in live action, and then once you get to the real games, then you sort of minimize the opportunity to see more rookie mistakes when you're practicing it all off season. And Roger Goodell alluded to the fact that taking away a preseason game would be something that they could go down the route of, and maybe adding another bye week and then pushing the NFL season back to that President's Day weekend, and then just generating more revenue for the NFL if there's no school or work tomorrow. That was the basis of his statement on the Pat McAfee show. Again, it sounds great, like Ryan Kelly says, but again, not too many players, I would think, are too excited or overly excited, especially the veteran players too, about playing more games, having more of a risk of maybe getting injured in an older situation if you're a player. Of course, you want to go out there and play as much football as you can. This period doesn't last too long in your career or just in your life, but at the same time, it just feels like this could be pushing it a little bit too much. And then you get into the idea of what the NFL is really willing to offer these players to determine how badly they want this to go up to 18 games. It seems inevitable to some extent because the NFL really ends up getting what they desire more often than not from the NFLPA or just from these negotiations. There always seems to be a compromise that favors their idea more so than the players, and I'll be interested to see what they sort of leverage and try to give up to these players to get them more on their side, because the decision will come down to a player vote, and already, the players already approved the last time they expanded the season to 17 games, so maybe if they offer the right thing, they could get it up again if, the offer is too good to pass up. I mentioned before the revenue split, maybe giving them a bigger piece of that money stack there could be something more enticing to some players, or more off time as well with the off season changes. Those all are going to be into the consideration for this whole topic as it just develops more and more into next offseason, I'm sure, as well. But for right now, Ryan Kelly has been one of the more adamant ones against this schedule. Everybody else has been pretty tame about it, but he really didn't seem to be a fan of it. And if he could be swayed, or maybe more people now speak out against it because they see Ryan Kelly doing it, all that and the reaction to all of this will be something to monitor as we move on with the offseason. It's going to be one of the biggest stories going into next year and the years after that, because I mentioned in 2029, the ideal spot for the NFL to leverage a bigger schedule of games to the broadcasting and streaming companies, where they could opt out of their contract and use that as a ploy to earn more revenue because they have a bigger slate of games. Something to keep in mind, but again, that's a long way away. But for right now, we'll leave that topic there, and we're going to move on with the rest of the show. We're going to head into our first break, and when we return, we're going to talk about more contract talks with the Green Bay Packers and their quarterback, Jordan Love. Where do they stand on their contract negotiations, and what's the ideal timeline to sort of expect something to finally be finalized between Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers? Stick around to find out more on that topic when we return in just a few seconds.